Williamson, this is where I used to live. Wow. Some pretty wild times here. I assume the apartments still exist. Forest Oaks. And I went through some sort of agency that owned this, and they were on Huffman Mill Road, which I ended up living at later on. It's so ironic. I moved into these apartments actually around Thanksgiving time in 2003. That was my first apartment, first time living by myself. I lived quietly and alone. So it's sort of exciting, it's always exciting getting your first place. This is it. Man, it's always awkward going in here and filming. But I lived in H4. I know it's here. H5. That's it. That was mine, H4. God, that's so crazy, man. That was my first place. I lived there from 2003 into 2004, so yeah. I don't want to. And I remember us hanging out, me, my friend Will Boney, and Mad Dog Lester. There's a guy, he just passed away. I was sad to hear that. He's a good friend of mine, but he's like an old biker dude and an older guy. But Lester lived in one of these apartments, and but he went by, we called him Mad Dog. He was known as Mad Dog. He was always getting in trouble here. I remember there was one time it was snowing. But it was an ambulance, a police car, and a fire truck. They were all out here. It was so weird. I was playing music and partying and I look out on all these, police cars and fire trucks. Or not all, it was one of each, I remember. And it ended up being him, Lester, and a guy, other old dude, got in a fight. A bad fight here, and they were called because of that. But that was the laundry room, and still is. And we sat out drinking beer in front of that. Me, my buddy Will, and Lester, and another guy. Seems like another older man. He might not be alive anymore, but he lived in that apartment, and we would hang out with him just a couple of times. I bought my first record albums here too. A guy was selling vinyl out here. I got a Leonard Skinner album and a ZZ Top album for $1 a piece. That was like my first ever vinyl records that I bought. So I grew up in the CDH. That was my first apartment. Yeah, I can understand her. Yeah, I figure that's one thing you gotta take with filming, people get weirded out by. But